So here you have the chapter. I told you that we're going to review today the chapter you studied, the last chapter you studied in curriculum development with the Ustad Fatihi last semester, because it focuses on the approaches and the procedures for evaluation, right? So you dealt with that, right? Okay. Can you remind me of a few things there before we go into? Can you remind me of a few things there? Yes, please.
So I think we have dealt with the methods of evaluation, or types of evaluation, which are three main types, which are summative evaluation, eliminative evaluation, and summative evaluation.
Yes, these are the kinds of, or approaches to, or ways, types I would call types of evaluation. So, formative, summative, eliminative. Right, good. Some instruments, those are the procedures, right? We call them the procedures for conducting evaluation or instruments. So what are the types of instruments, okay, if you remember? They are very normal kind, yes. Tests, case studies, questionnaires, interviews, observation, checklists.
There are actually two major types.
Yes.
Qualitative and quantitative.
That's globally concerning the approach. The approach is quantitative, qualitative, but then in each one of them you have procedures, what we call the procedures, the instruments that you use, right? Okay, so we're going to talk also about, again, qualitative and quantitative approaches. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Yeah. Existing information. What do you mean by existing information? Yes. Yes. So maybe we could call them, you're referring to documents, existing documents about the program that you want to evaluate, either copybooks or descriptives or reports or whatever kind of documents describing, talking about the program itself. So we call them as documents, existing documents. So we'll refer to that as well. Good. Yes?
We also talked about some issues related to evaluation, like, for example, the audience.
Yes, very good.
And the participants.
That's good. So we have here two things there mentioned: the audience of the evaluation, and then the participants in the evaluation. Okay. Now, do you remember what do you mean by audience of evaluation? Yes.
Generally, there are people, fans, in the evaluation process. Like,
yes.
For example, stakeholders.
Yes. UNESCO.
Owners of
school.
So those are actually the ones who have to be reported.
Ministry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ministry. So the ones who get the reports at the end and who have to decide upon that reports either to tweak the program, to modify it, or completely change it.
Yes. Okay. Good. So that's the audience. And concerning the participants, yes.
The participants, they are of two types. We are talking about the insiders and the outsiders.
Outsiders, very good. The insiders.
The
Students, teachers, administration. Yes. Yes. So, okay. So those are the participants. So that's what we're going to go back to here. Okay. So this is the chapter. So we'll be just reading, with you and talking with you about the content of the chapter. So just concerning the outline as it is used in the chapter itself. So the first thing we'll talk about is the questions raised regarding curriculum, because the first thing you have to do is develop a curriculum and finalize the curriculum or adapt the curriculum and then use it, okay? But then after that, what could be done? So here we have a few questions that are raised towards curriculum. Then we talk about types of evaluation, which you have referred to as eliminative, summative, and formative. And then we are going to talk about the audience of evaluation, the participants in the evaluation process, the quantitative, qualitative approaches to evaluation, importance of documentation, and also something which is also important is talk about some criteria for a successful implementation. Because there is implementation, but not any implementation can be successful. There are some criteria to be considered in successful implementation of a program. And finally, we'll talk about procedures used, okay, the instruments, procedures used in conducting evaluation, right? So the first thing should be mentioned in here is that the questions, okay, so we have the questions raised regarding curriculum and that lead to evaluation. So why we go to evaluation? Why is that? So the first kind of question we can refer to here is the curriculum achieving its goals? Does it achieve the objective? What is happening in classrooms and schools where it is being implemented? Because you have textbooks, but the way the textbooks are used differ from one context to another. So that leads us to go into this area of evaluation, right? So what is happening? What does happen, okay, concerning the implementation, the use of the textbook, the use of materials, okay, in schools, in different types of schools and context? Are those affected by the curriculum, satisfied with the curriculum, the teachers, the administrators, students, parents? Now you know, for example, concerning ELT in Morocco, you know that there are different types of textbooks, but some textbooks, teachers are satisfied with those textbooks and students are satisfied with those textbooks, but there are other textbooks about which teachers and students, especially teachers, are not satisfied. So this leads us into this kind of evaluation. Okay, we have to go there in order to see what is missing and to go into developing it or solving problems there. Have those involved in developing and teaching a language course done a satisfactory job in their implementation? Okay, because usually the most important aspects of all curriculum, all syllabi, is the implementation, how it is implemented. Does the curriculum compare favorably with others of its kind? Because one of the ways you can do evaluation, and we're going to talk about it later, is to compare. Okay, compare this program with another similar program. Talking about, for example, teaching English. So there's this program and there's another program. So you compare between the two programs and see concerning the program itself and concerning the implementation of that program. Okay, so see and take the positive aspects in both sides and try to reduce the negative aspects in both programs. So this is why these are some of the questions that lead people, specialists in the field, to go into this area of evaluation. So the next thing to be mentioned are what are the objectives. You don't see it there, but I see it in my screen. Maybe it's too small. It's just objectives of evaluation. Now, concerning the objectives, okay, we have with answering questions such as these, okay, it focuses on collecting information about different aspects of language program in order to understand how the program works. Okay, how the program works. We're always talking and referring to implementation and how successfully it works, enabling different kinds of decisions to be made. Because when you go into the study evaluation of the implementation, you can notice what is missing, what is not missing, what is good, not good. And therefore, you can work on it in order to improve the program for future. Because it's never perfect. Yes, please.
What's the difference between like, assessment and evaluation? When you evaluate, you obtain information through assessment in order to make decisions about the program.
Yes.
And then, when you talk about the objective, one way of evaluating the program is to try and make a comparison between the objectives and the outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
The more there is a discrepancy between the two,
yes,
the more the program is
not satisfactory. Yes, for sure. So that's true. And how successfully it works, etc., such as whether the program responds to learners' needs. Does the program respond to learners' needs? Whether further teacher training is required. Is there any, because as you know in ELT, every time there is, especially in pedagogy in general, every time there is something new, okay? Like in technology, things are developing so fast these days. So, always there is this need for adapting ELT materials in order to incorporate these new approaches, these new research findings, into the ELT materials and to teaching and learning in general. This is one thing. And the other thing, as I was mentioning, is that there is this idea that things are never perfect. So there's always this need to go from good to better. Good to better, okay? You can never be perfect from the beginning, so it goes on like this. Taking into account this idea again of research findings and new approaches, new tips for teaching and learning that should be, of course, included. Is required for teachers working in the program, or whether students are learning sufficiently from it. Okay, so the students are they learning from it. Okay, so because we are talking about learning, that's the most important thing. Okay, so that's why evaluation isn't so, and that's one of the objectives of evaluation. Yes. Yes, efficiency. Okay, satisfactory or not. Now the other point to be referred to here is the focus. Okay, the focus and objectives of evaluation. What can be the focus of an evaluation? Okay, now the focus of an evaluation, we can have different aspects in here. Okay, so the first one is the curriculum design. The curriculum design to provide insights about the quality of program planning and organization. Okay, insights about the quality of program planning and organization. So you go into the organization, the structures, okay, the structure of the program and the units or the topics or whatever. So the structure, okay, and then you go into there and then you try to get insights about that curriculum design. The syllabus and program content. The syllabus and program content. For example, how relevant and engaging it was, how easy or difficult. This is usually a story behind teaching and learning. The teacher is always fighting with this area. Am I using the appropriate level in my, for my students in my program? Is it suitable? And the same thing for the exams. Is the exam suitable for their level, or is it too difficult? So this is an area. Usually teachers are fighting with it, okay? In order to, so you have to make a balance and try to be as objective as possible in that regard. So to provide, for example, how relevant and engaging it was, interesting for the students, not interesting, okay? Relevant to their topics of interest or not relevant. How successful tests and assessment procedures were. So I just mentioned that. Classroom processes to provide insights about the extent to which a program is being implemented appropriately. So you see again a reference to implementation, the process of teaching and learning that program. Okay, was it successful? Was it not successful? The teachers, because there is an area, there are different focuses, okay? As we look here, okay? So one of the areas, and I'm going to distribute for you some materials, I will share them with you, regarding teacher evaluation, okay? There are checklists and procedures to do that, okay? And I found some interesting materials in there, I will share them with you. So the teachers, for example, how they conducted their teaching, what their perceptions were of the program, what they taught. So you always have to go to the teachers. What do you think? Suitable level, not suitable, relevant to the students' needs, not relevant. Also the implementation, the teacher styles, teaching styles and methodology. Was it appropriate for the students, not appropriate? The students were satisfied with the teacher, not satisfied. Okay? So teacher training. Another focus of a program, evaluation program, could be the teacher training to assess whether training teachers have received is adequate. Okay? So this is also another focus of evaluation. The students, for example, what they learned from the program, their perceptions of it, and how they participated in it. So, did they learn something from the program? Something that you have to investigate in this regard, to evaluate. Or they learn nothing, or a little bit. So if they learn bits, so something is wrong in there. If they learn much, something is good in there to be exploited further. And then So their perceptions of it, the students' perceptions, attitudes about the program, okay? And finally, how they participated in it. Because if they are, these 2 points here are related, in fact. Because if the program involves the students' perceptions, students will certainly be participating in it. But if the program doesn't reflect the students' perceptions and needs and interests, of course, they will not participate in it, okay? They will get bored and so on. Monitoring of pupil progress to conduct formative in-progress evaluations of student learning, okay? One of the, this is usually it's always done, okay? But teachers need what we call as continuous assessment, okay? But it's one of the most popular ways for conducting evaluation, especially in our context, okay? The institution, before that, learner motivation to provide insights about the effectiveness of teachers. This is related to the teachers, okay? The motivation, there are many levels in the motivation of the students. There is the context, the place itself, the setting, how it is shaped and how it is designed. Then there is the material you are using for teaching. And then there are the logistics you are using, the ads, the materials, blackboard, whiteboard. And of course, most important element in there is the teacher's style, okay, in teaching. Teacher's personality. So that's why learner motivation, we have to go there if they were motivated, okay, in order to see if things work appropriately concerning all that. So to provide insight about the effectiveness of teachers, okay, so you go into learner motivation in order to see the teachers, okay. In aiding students to achieve goals and objectives of the school. The institution, the school itself, for example, what administrative support was provided. Well, many things here we don't have, but we're required to teach you these things, okay, just to know them, okay, maybe in the future, so we have better things and then you can apply these things, okay. So the institutions, so we have to evaluate the administrative work. Do they provide some support? Do they provide some resources, some backup, or did they get into touch with the school, with the parents, etc. I remember I was in the UK, and we were visiting schools. One of the schools we visited, I was surprised to see that they have a special department. That is not interested in, it is interested in the pupils, in the students, but is more interested in the parents' counseling. Parents' counseling. They provide them with tips and counseling in order to help their kids to be successful at school. What they should do to work with them, entertainment, advising the parents. Okay, so this is a special department with the offices and all the logistics. Okay, so just to tell you, this is one of the important things to be considered for evaluation. Okay. So learning environment to provide insights about the extent to which students are provided with a responsive environment in terms of educational needs. So we're talking about here the context, the environment, the setting. Is it a good one? The school in general, okay? Is it a good setting? Because I was talking with some people in the government, and one of the biggest issues that they have noticed in the administration of the schools, especially the private sector, is that usually those people in the private sector, if they have land, they don't use the good, well-placed land for investing in private school. They use only some, located in some very bad places, not good for the students, either far or things like that, okay? So this one of the areas that the government found in the management of this, okay? So just to tell you, so here we're talking about environment. So not any place can be suitable for students to learn, okay? There should be good places for these students to learn. Okay. Maybe you can notice that at university level now this is no more the case for our faculty here. But if you look at the pictures of this faculty when it first started, I wasn't here and I didn't know about Ibn Zohar at all. But when I saw the pictures, only the faculty in the middle of the desert. Here. Yes, empty. Everything is empty. Maybe Aqallush knows the better place than... Yes.
I was here in 1989 and we had to take the bus until the furthest the bus could come is Jamal Dora.
Yes,
This is the nearest place where then you will have to walk till here. But I think that this is for security issues in the first place.
But the security is not teaching and learning.
Yeah, this is how.
Yeah, I know. That's the reason.
They don't want the travel of the university to be.
But now it is. Anyway, so we know these things. Okay, usually this is due to the fact that they want to, leave problems far from the city. But that's not teaching. We're not no more dealing with teaching and learning. Just to tell you, the fact that the environment plays a role and should be considered in evaluation. So staff development as well. Staff development, it means teacher continuous training, okay? Formation continue, okay? Are the teachers involved in continuous training every time they have a training because things are new, things are developing, and you should be involved in a kind of network, to improve your skills, okay? Decision making, to provide insights about how well the school staff, principals, teachers, and others make decisions that result in learner benefits. So also another focus of evaluation could be the decisions made, because your decisions are not the Quran, so they could be evaluated. So, because some decisions can bring better results, some decisions can bring the opposite results. So they should be evaluated. Which decisions were appropriate and they brought about good results, and others that brought about negative results. So the ones that were good should be exploited. Others not good should be avoided. Okay? Yes,
I think there is a solution for this one. Like when conducting a program evaluation, the people involved in conducting the evaluation, they set some procedures and rules not to be broken. Like in other, when they try to interpret the outcome of the evaluation, their interpretation will not be like biased. Like funders tend to.
These are issues.
Teachers want to avoid this kind of conflict.
Yes, these are some of the issues raised towards evaluation with regard to the audiences. Each audience has got its own, interests and so on. So these are some of the issues we will come back to. Yes?
It depends again on the fundraising.
Yes, because people give money, so you have to go to the... Yeah. These are the issues raised with regard to evaluation. I agree, but people who give money, so you have to follow them to some extent, okay? That's why, we are always complaining about, for example, at the university, coming back to the university again, the reform and this, the university reform, this modular system and plan d'urgence. So it's all part of these issues, okay, of funding, and funding is coming from where, and, orientations are different. So that's why, again, coming back to the very beginning before I launched this class, talking about patriotic feelings and patriotic ideas, attitudes. So people should be more nationalistic and should defend their, long story in there. Good. Now, the focus now is the scope of evaluation. Okay, another point that I would like to discuss with you is the focus, or not the focus, but the scope of evaluation. Because the scope of evaluation has changed, okay, throughout time, in the sense that the scope has moved from a concern with test results to the need. They're no more, at the beginning they were concerned with the test result. The students are achieving or not achieving, middle achievers, low achievers, high achievers, etc. So that's the scope. But after that, by the time, it tends to move from the mere concern with test result to the need to collect information to collect information, okay, about the school, about all those types of focus I have discussed before, to collect information and make judgments about all aspects of the curriculum from planning to implementation, okay? So, and which is much better. If you just focus on the test results, you are dismissing many other aspects of the curriculum, okay? As we have mentioned, those points of focus here, okay? We have the syllabus design, syllabus and program content, classroom processes, materials. If you do just tests, you don't deal with this, okay? You just focus on the tests and the proficiency of the students, okay? So that's why there is a move from this focus on test results to the collection of information and making judgments, okay, about all aspects of the curriculum, all points of focus I have mentioned before. Now, the purposes of evaluation, before we go into types of evaluation, summative, formative, and eliminative types of evaluation, before that we should refer to these two major purposes of evaluation. One is referred to as program accountability, and the other one is referred to as program development. Okay, program accountability, just to make the story short, you know, every time the UNESCO and so on, they come and tell you the results about education in Morocco. Students are low, high. This is it. Okay, it goes within this scope. Okay, accountability refers to the extent to which those involved in the program are answerable for the quality, because the purpose of those UNESCO researchers and so on is to investigate the quality of the teaching process and learning process of the education system as a whole. So this is what is meant by accountability, program accountability. The type of evaluation, or the purpose of this kind of evaluation is to see how much quality goes into the program. Okay, so this is the first one. The next one is development-oriented evaluation. Development-oriented, here it is, development-oriented evaluation. It is designed to improve the quality of a program as being implemented. So while the program is being done, there are instruments used to collect information, to investigate what's going on okay and not going on well. Okay, so in order to develop, so the purpose is to develop, okay? So the purpose could be accountability, quality, to investigate the accountability, the quality of a program, or the purpose could be development of a program. So these are two purposes before we go into any types of evaluation. Now, then comes the point where we should mention and talk about these different types of evaluation: formative evaluation, eliminative evaluation, and summative evaluation. Okay, so far? Good. Nadia, you want to say something?
I think that the first evaluation comes and then comes the development evaluation.
Yes, you could combine the two, okay? But we're not talking about here, we're not talking about which comes first, which comes second, because you could do only one without doing the other. You could only do the accountability and you can do only development activity. But there is the possibility of doing both, and I think this is the best way to do it, to combine the two. Yeah, it's not so short. It takes time to do this, okay? It's not done very quickly, very small. Yeah, of course. Yeah?
I think the opposite.
Yes.
But, development-oriented evaluation, I think the audience of this kind of evaluation is the teachers. They try to see the weaknesses, where they should work more, where they should not less, but at least minimize the focus on, in order to achieve the goals of the program.
Yeah.
And the accountability, it is how the quality of the product they have.
Yes. Yunus, you are not talking about which comes first, which comes second. You are talking about which is better. Which is better?
They are good.
They are both good, I know, but that's why I'm using the word better. I'm not using the word which one is good and the other is better. Accountability is good.
We can differentiate between two according to the audience. The oriented development is for the teachers, mainly, but the accountability is for the funders. They want to see if they want to
Yeah.
well, or whether the
Yes.
So experiences can be created with the same amount of
Yes. So that's why it's only good. But the other one, development, teacher development, oriented towards development, is much better because you go and collect data to improve. But the first one is just to see if money is well spent and if the results are good, other. Now, formative, illuminative, and summative evaluation. So, evaluation, this type of evaluation is generally known as, carried out as part of the process of program evaluation, development. So here we are talking, it's part of development, in order to find out what is working well and what is not, and what problems need to be addressed. So formative evaluation, okay? So this is the first kind. And there are different kinds of questions that are asked in this regard to do formative evaluation. So the first kind we have here, has enough time been spent on particular objectives? Okay. Some objectives need more time than others. So has enough time been spent on that? Have the placement tests placed students at the right level in the program? Yes? Yes, long term, yes, I agree with you. Long term, of course, they need more time, but there are some objectives that need short time. Yeah, of course. And then another story, especially with regard to language teaching and learning, is the placement test. If you go to a language center, and placement tests are never perfect. You know this story? They are never perfect. So far, up to now, they are never perfect. Okay, so just one of the ways to help you to know the student's level in order to place them into the appropriate program. So that's why it should be part of the formative evaluation. Okay, have the placement test place students at the right level in the program. Usually, if you have some experience, I don't know, but language centers, many times you get, after the program starts, you get some participants telling you, oh, this is too difficult for me, can you put me lower level? Or the opposite, this is too low for me, can you put me in a higher level? Yes? This usually happens, okay? People who have experience with language centers. How well is the textbook being received? Okay, the reception. The opposite, it's well appreciated. Yes,
There's an example of the second back textbooks. We have 3, but one of them is really not very much popular among the teachers. Whoever teachers using that textbook finds a lot of difficulty, which is insights.
Yes.
And that's why we have a lot of people who use to teach with insights and they changed it to the other ones like the gateway.
Yeah, for sure. So is it well received or not well received? Because of course that's the main food, okay? The main food for people to eat, like using type of figurative meaning, every hour, every class. So is the food good or appreciated or not appreciated? If it's not appreciated, so you will not get it. Is the methodology teachers, okay, are using appropriate, the methodology? And no need to go into this area again, so you know that there are different types of, okay? And you should know now that there is no one definite methodology to use. You should know this now. You should get convinced about it, yes.
If at all they are using any methodology.
If they are using any methodology, of course.
We have a lot, especially
yes.
the foreign teachers, they just teach like this, and if they are even reluctant to continuous to the meetings with the supervisors, they don't like that at all. they feel safer keeping the way they used to teach for a very long time.
Public sector.
Public sector, yeah.
So that's another story. So is the methodology used between or by the teachers appropriate? Okay, because you know now that methodology and the way of teaching, pedagogy, is not something just to be done randomly. There are things, theories, approaches, techniques to be taken into account, learning styles to be taken into account, classroom discourse we have mentioned, talked about, okay, procedures to be taken into account, okay, so is the methodology teachers are using appropriate? Are teachers or students having difficulties, okay, are teachers or students having difficulties with any aspect of the course, okay, any area that tends to be difficult, okay, are students enjoying the program? If not, what can be done to improve their motivation? Sometimes you can do some activity, but the students not very well involved, not very much involved with you. But when you do another activity in a different way, you tend to be involved. You remember once Ibrahim did that gaming with you? You were all involved, including myself. Okay, I was involved. So let alone if you do it with the teenagers. Okay, so you forgot about all problems you want to create for him, and you just were involved with him. Okay, so are students enjoying the program? Okay, any ways to improve their motivation? Are students getting sufficient practice? Well, usually. This one is usually problematic because of the students, not because of the teachers, okay? Because of the teachers, if they have very large classes, they tend to reduce the types of activities or homework to be done with the students, but usually it has also to do with the students who are reluctant to go into this area of practice, doing exercises. They tend to be a bit lazy, okay? So practice work. Is the pacing of the material adequate? We have been talking about the pacing, development, how things are developing, moving, pacing. Is it okay? It's not easy. It's never done perfectly every time. It's always an area to be improved, okay, because it's something very sensitive, okay, to deal with. Now, before I continue, let me read with you this example, okay?
For the pacing,
yes, please.
There are some books that you find problems to deal with. Some textbooks, for example, they are very long to work with.
Yes, yeah.
Like 3 years ago, I worked with a foreign textbook called New Step Ahead. It was very long and tiring, even for me as a teacher to work with, let alone the students.
Yes, for sure.
It was based on modules, so just to finish a module, it took, for example, 2 months to finish.
Yeah.
Despite many attempts to try that they did to try to reduce the amount of lessons and focus just on the important people was very tired.
Yeah, so can you imagine the situation of the students?
Facing the program is very, even our textbooks in public sector, you can find, for example, that the same amount of hours for scientific classes, you have to teach the same character to the same literary class. Okay, those are
with less hours.
Those are 3
with less hours.
And even the units. Now the ministry says to us, okay, don't, for example, for Common Core and middle school, they have 14 units, but we don't cover them. They say just try to cover 10 units and forget about the other 4. For bad classes, okay, it's very tiring to finish the 10 units. Okay.
And CPR training.
Yeah.
Is again training. University.
They have started in December and they have to finish in September. They have to cover the same amount of curriculum in limited.
And university as well, because now you should know that there is a change going on for the programs Fondamental, Licence, Master as well. Because they have noticed that in this reform, Plan d'Urgence, the program, the semester included more units to be done. Maybe you have noticed this for yourself. Maryam is...
It's one of the notice.
Yes?
It's one of the... I've been talking to many friends about this. It says that sometimes in each module...
You have 2 units.
Example, 2 units.
Sometimes 3.
And sometimes they are overlapping. Okay, for example, when of the minutes we try to see this and try to resolve it by just combine, for example, into one course with a...
That's what is going on now.
With enough time.
Yes. That's what is going on now. That's exactly what is going on now. Fondamental, licence professionnelle, master. Now, they no more talk about units. The terminology of units has disappeared, and the unit has become one module. So, module. It's one unit. There is the possibility to include there, but I'm sure that nobody is going to do more than one. Okay, so in each semester you have 6 modules. Okay, 6 modules. Let's say in the older version, 6 units. So reduced. So the same thing for licence professionnelle, the same thing for master. Now the new version of the master program is going to be less. So this is referring to, okay, now you are done, you should continue. You should continue that way. But that's the ministry, okay? So the ministry, you are working for the ministry. There is no way you can deviate, okay? There is no way you can deviate. You have to respect that, okay? For example, there are some other master programs. I have been talking with Ed Madani yesterday. They have 10 units, 9 units, okay? Now, so this is now all being revised, and because of this idea of pacing. Because really, I noticed this myself, okay, with you, or in Fondamental, 8 units is too much for this generation of students to cover, okay?
You're studying the same course.
That's another issue, okay? That's another issue. So you will still want 8 units? Yeah. No. Yeah. But let's see, the majority say no, this should be reduced. Okay? Anyway, so that's a point raised to the idea of pacing. Okay? And this is true, in fact, because you remember, in every time I talk with you, my obsession has never been with covering the curriculum. Obsession for me has never been covering the curriculum. Obsession with me is to get the students understand, be motivated with the content, and involved with the content. Okay? And so you can reduce something, but not totally. Okay? So let's see this example of somebody doing this kind of evaluation. So you take time to read it, okay? Can you take some time to read it? Example 3 here.
1, 2, and 3.
No, here, just 3. You can, yeah, if you have the chapter by your side, you can read the example 3. Example 3. Page 289. So what do you think? Yes? Yes. Check more on this relationship. Yeah? Check more on this relationship with the relation. Yes, in relation to, so what do you notice in the story? What's going on in the story? Yeah, that's why I'm asking. One of the advantages of formative assessment
that it reveals some of the problems during the process of conducting the program, for example. There are some problems that pop up there, and
yes,
the formative assessment is there to discover them, to find them, and then to address those problems.
What is the problem here?
Here it's the problem of pronunciation. Content is not a priority here in this.
Yes. Not covered appropriately in this program.
Yeah.
But students tend to have problems with pronunciation. Yeah.
But of course, actually,
Yes.
The teacher found out that students have more problems with pronunciation.
Yes, right. Okay, so that's why what is the solution there? It is decided to refocus development. Okay? Refocus on one section of the course, including pronunciation from yes. Now, when we talk about course, now every unit has sections, right? So every section means every unit should include a section on pronunciation. Okay?
That's why it's not we should not have assessment like evaluation because it involves
Evaluation, we're talking about evaluation. Formative, yeah, we're talking about evaluation, okay? Eliminative evaluation, formative evaluation, is summative evaluation. We don't use this word assessment. Maybe if I use it, just use my mistake. Yeah.
Also refers us to the notion of program development, which is to improve the quality of the program as it is being implemented.
As it is
being implemented. Not wait until the end.
Yes, formative. Yes. Same thing as formative assessment. Unit is referring to assessment. It's the same kind of approach used in formative assessment because you want to see if the learners have learned, okay, what you are teaching them. So you do formative assessments during the course, once, maybe more, in order to see if they have learned. Yes? Okay, thank you. Now, eliminative evaluation. So if you just refer back to the title here, so we have, okay, formative, okay, formative evaluation, eliminative evaluation, okay. Another type of evaluation can be described, so this refers to evaluation that seeks to find out how different aspects of the program work or are being implemented. It seeks to provide a deeper understanding of the processes of teaching, so it goes into the implementation. Okay? It doesn't go into describing the content and so on, but it goes into the implementation, okay, of teaching and learning that occur in the program, without necessarily seeking to change the course in any way as a result. The result, the aim, the final aim is not to change, but just to describe what's going on, how implementation is taking place, and so on. So questions here raised in this regard to do eliminative evaluation: how do students carry out group work tasks? Okay? How do students carry out group work tasks? Do all students participate equally in them? Okay? Because it's very important to know if the students are participating in all of them, okay? Because if only a few participate and others are not, so there is a problem in there, okay? Group work tasks. What type of error correction strategies do teachers use? Okay? What kinds of decisions do teachers employ while teaching? We talked last time about this. Sometimes there are some situations that raise where the teacher takes decisions. So those decisions can be positive or negative. So you have to evaluate them.
Classroom, for example, what we study in classroom,
yes.
Discourse, like for example, analyzing the discourse of the teacher tries to analyze his own discourse by imputing or having an external observation and trying to analyze that. That's part of the
yes. Yes. And also
self-evaluation.
Yes. Yeah. It could be. You could have it, it could have it, it could not have it.
You just want to know how you do something, okay, or whether you're successful in something or not. Okay?
Yeah.
You just want to check about something you're doing in the classroom.
Yes, yes.
It didn't reach yet the extent to change something.
But you can have it. So it depends on your aim. Is your aim to change something later or not to change? Okay. So both of them can be in both, but the aim differentiates between formative and eliminative. Okay. How do teachers use lesson plans when teaching? You know, lesson plans, the way you implement lesson plans can be different. It's different, in fact. In yourself, okay, without moving from one teacher to another. Just yourself. From one class to another, implementation of lesson plan can be different. Okay? So, it's worth to see, okay, to describe that. What type of teacher-student interaction patterns typically occur in classes? You know, you have to see if what is most predominant. Is it teacher-student or is it student-student? So type of interaction going on. What reading strategies do students use with different kinds of texts? Okay. How do students understand the teacher's intentions during a lesson? And which students in class are most or least active? So you go into the different areas of teaching and learning, okay, to make the story, again, short. Now, as an example, I want you to read this one, okay, number 2, okay? Okay? So what's the story here?
Teacher survey, teacher interaction.
Yes, studying or investigating, student, teacher. Now what's the problem? What's going on? What happens? Yes.
Teacher wants to see who's controlling the teacher-student interaction, and I can see better scaffold control the process by which the learners are going further in the class.
Yeah. So from data collected, yes.
So the teacher wants to know, I don't know, the patterns of her interaction with the students. I don't know, like to see from the observer perspective. Sometimes the teacher, when they teach, they are not aware of certain, for example, interaction patterns.
They are aware.
They are not sometimes. Yeah, they are not aware of the interaction patterns because they are engaged in the teaching process and so on. But if there's not an observer, then from the observer perspective, in the observation, the observer can notice those different patterns. And maybe, for example, if the teacher is, let's say, for example, a particular particular teacher is addressing, I don't know, one side of the classroom, some students, for example, few students like in the front, and then like neglect the other part the classroom. So this is a kind of interaction content should be addressed.
Yes. So as you can notice, yes.
Yeah, you notice here that the purpose of the evaluation is not to change the way, yes, it's just to have a better understanding of the way she.
So that's why it's called eliminative. Now you can notice that all this goes into the scope of what is called as action. Research. All action. We want to call it in general. Okay. Action. Research. Okay, but action research for different purposes and goals. So that's why it's mentioned in the chapter itself. Action research or teacher inquiry. Okay. Now the next one is called or referred to as summative evaluation. Okay, summative evaluation. So a third approach to evaluation is the type of evaluation with which most teachers and program administrators are familiar and which seeks to make decisions about the worth or value of different aspects of the curriculum. The curriculum. So you want to see if it's doing well. So you want to evaluate. The results. This is known as summative evaluation. Now, kinds of questions to be raised in there. So how effective was the course? Did it achieve its aims? What did the students learn? How well was the course received by students and teachers? Did the materials work well? Were the objectives adequate or do they need to be revised? Were the placement and achievement tests adequate? Was the amount of time spent on each unit sufficient? How appropriate? And I think these things don't need any explanations because they explain themselves, right? How appropriate were? Please. Amal, Ahlam, that corner. Anything wrong? Anything wrong or something? Yeah, keep it. When I finish, it disturbs me. Now, were the placement and achievement tests adequate? Was the amount of time spent on each unit sufficient? How appropriate were the teaching methods? What problems were encountered during the course? So this is the purpose of summative evaluation. Yes, the next generation. At the end, you like a summative assessment. So you have summative evaluation. So summative assessment, you do it at the end to see if the students have learned what you were teaching them. So the same thing for summative evaluation. Criteria for summative evaluation. So here we start talking about the criteria. Now, concerning the criteria, first one, mastery of objectives. Did the students master what you have been teaching them? Of course, I let you go and back and read again the rest of this section, but I think just from the title we can understand what's going on in there. Performance on tests. So the tests that the teachers do for the students, either in terms of formative assessment or in terms of summative assessment. Do the students really learn, to get results, etc.? Next one is retention rate or enrollment rate.
There is
another one. measures of acceptability. Okay, is it accepted among the students, teachers, etc.? Not accepted. Then retention rate and enrollment rate, re-enrollment. We're talking about the next generations. Do they choose the same program again and again, again and again? If it works, then it's a good thing. Efficiency of the course. Okay, is it efficient? How straightforward the course was to develop and implement. Okay, etc. Good. So those are some of the criteria, okay, for a successful implementation of evaluation, okay, especially summative evaluation. Now, some of the issues in program evaluation, okay, we were talking about issues at the beginning, so propose a broad view of evaluation that is characterized by a need for both insider and outsider commitment and involvement to ensure adequate evaluation. You know, evaluation is very sensitive. Okay? If only one person is involved, there is the risk of subjectivity. Okay? So that's the objectivity, subjectivity. How are we going to be? How much objective are we and how less objective we could be? So that's why there is need to balance in terms of audiences, okay, people evaluating. So there should be a kind of balance. That's why if you go to exams and concours, always there is a committee, okay? There is never one person, okay? There is a committee evaluating and then giving the results and then giving the final results. So there should be this, okay? So a need for both insider and outsider, okay? Okay, a central interest in improvement as well as the demonstration of the product's value of a program or project or their components. So here the point is improvement, interest in improving, okay, the program. An associated commitment to a deeper professional understanding of the processes of educational change as well as the results of that change. Now here it goes, it's general, so as I told you, always there are new pedagogies, new approaches, new techniques, so how much is this commitment of the ministries and teachers? It's an issue, okay? I'm not talking about people who no more use pedagogy, if there is any pedagogy. So that's an issue, okay? Systematic documentation. Talking about documentation, and we're going to refer to it again later. Documentation for evaluation purposes, both during implementation and at the beginning of a program or project's life. Okay, a willingness to embrace both qualitative and quantitative methodology, and we're going to refer to this as well. Should we use qualitative? Should we use? Always a discussion there, okay? But the best answer for this is to combine. Always, whenever people are researching, I'm talking about the research methodology, they raise these issues, and then at the end they tell you, best approach is to combine. Combine qualitative and quantitative approach, okay? To have, for validity of results. These principles raise the following issues in the evaluation process, okay? So, the audience for evaluation, we have talked about stakeholders, etc. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into this, but I go directly to the audience. Okay, the people in the audience, or those who are involved in the audience for evaluation. So first, most important are students. What did I learn, or what did they learn? How well did I do or compare to the others? How well will I rate this course? How will this help me in the future? Do I need another course? So, this is the some of the issues, some of the questions to be addressed with regard to this element of the audience, the students. Teachers. How well did I teach? And as I told you, there are some checklists that I share with you concerning teacher evaluation. How well did I teach? What did my students learn? Were my students satisfied with the course? How useful were the materials and course work? How effective was the course organization? Okay. Then the curriculum developers, you have, is the design of the course and materials appropriate? The design, the organization. So what we call in French l'architecture pédagogique, or the Canva, okay? What aspects of the course need replacing or revising? Okay, there are things to be revised all the time, okay? You find things to be revised, so you should go into there. Do teachers and students respond favorably to the course? Okay? Do teachers need additional support with the course? Okay? Now, like teacher training, like logistics, like whatever kind of support. Yes, day-to-day. Yes, professional development, like we talk continuous training. Administrators, what was the time frame of the course appropriate? Talking about the pacing. Were the management and monitoring of the course successful in identifying and rectifying problems? Were the management and monitoring of the course successful? Okay, so the management and monitoring. Clients' expectations met? Were testing and assessment procedures adequate? Were resources made use of? That you say they were used. Okay, the resources, the logistics. And then you have sponsors. So there are some issues that some don't really involve us as Moroccans because we don't have, okay, so schools, we have schools. But sponsors, if you go to the abroad, universities and schools, etc., they are sponsored, okay? They have sponsors, okay? They have sponsors. And that's how the school works, the university works. Harvard, for example, or whatever university or school. They get sponsoring from business sectors, okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. Good. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, of course, because when you give them, yeah. But that's a good thing. Is it in where city is that? What city is that? What city is that? City, Medina. Rabat, okay. So that's a good development, yeah?
There is even a case in Zakhsuni when Coca-Cola tried to sponsor some activities, but the
sponsor activities, not the school.
Not the
yeah.
school.
This goes. This works.
But it was not welcome because they did not want to have any business matters interfering with education. So it was refused.
Anyway, the sponsoring for activities exists. Okay, maybe something wrong in there, but they exist. For example, if you do a conference or if you do whatever kind of activity, cultural activity or whatever, you need to look for sponsors to make your activity more successful. Okay. Yes, Zakaria?
It just came to my mind that part of the sponsors are those international agencies. Sometimes, for example, from Morocco, you find the
for the university. Yeah.
You find the UNESCO. Okay, so before they give you some money you pump into your educational system, you have again to abide by some of their recommendations. You have to change this. You have to do this. Sometimes their recommendation, some of their recommendations are visible to the external reader, but sometimes you don't know what's signed under the table. Sometimes they bring you new programs.
Those are not usually they are not good sponsors.
Yeah. Okay.
But
they are sponsors.
Because we need. Okay.
Yes. And this is also the clear example here was the emergency plan. So it was funded by the World Bank, the World Monetary Fund, and the UNESCO. Okay, and it was sponsored with a huge amount of money. Okay? And then now they are still, even those sponsors, they are still waiting for the not the results, but the proof of spending. Okay? So because the program was stopped and without even giving
so that's why it should be one of the areas for evaluation. Okay, it should be who are the sponsors? Are they good sponsors, or do they have some other backgrounds? Yeah, and other issues in that. Other possible audiences for evaluation, other possible, okay, as I put it here, audiences, in addition to these audiences we have mentioned so far, there are other possible audiences like other teachers in the program for course design and planning purposes, managers of the institution or program, curriculum support and development unit, okay, like a department, and others. Yeah, for sure. It's a demanding task. If you want to do it like this, okay? But usually for you, it's intended like for research. If people are intended to do research, because it can be like a research or thesis could be on evaluation. You're not going to need, yeah?
That's eliminative.
Eliminative, something like eliminative evaluation, okay? Or action research or something like that, okay? Now, these audiences need to be carefully identified. So they need to be identified in your evaluation or in the evaluation process. You need to identify who will be the members of my audience, okay? The next points are, of course, the participants. And here you have mentioned at the beginning that we have two components. We have the insiders and we have the outsiders. So the insiders, of course, are the insiders, the people in the school. And outsiders are the people outside of the school, okay? They could be different, so you could go and review that. So outsiders are others who are involved in the program, like the sponsors, for example, consultants, inspectors, administrators, experts, for example. If you remember last time, we had that experts from the British Council. It was part of an evaluation. It's part of an evaluation going on. Okay, he's conducting, because the ministry is collaborating with the British Council to evaluate ELT programs and education, teaching of languages, learning of languages. So he came to collect data, okay? So that's part, it was part of that process, okay? Because he was talking to you, he went to schools and met students and teachers, and, okay? Now the next one, next point is quantitative versus qualitative evaluation. We are about to finish in here. I'm not going to go into the details, but as I told you, you know what is quantitative so far because you have studied research methodology. So you know quantitative and qualitative. The best way to do this is combine. To get better elimination, okay, to combine, okay? Yes, because the value of quantitative approach is in terms of validity, in terms of objectivity, okay? The value of qualitative research is in terms of interpretation. Generalizing, or basically interpreting the results. You get the results, and then you have to go into qualitative approach in order to interpret the results. Because how can you do? You're not going to, yes, you can use quantitative research for interpretation, but qualitative research for reasons, arguments, opinions, that's qualitative research, okay? So, and here we're talking about quantitative versus qualitative evaluation. Both quantitative and qualitative approaches are needed for evaluation, okay? Now, documentation, it's also very useful for evaluation. Now, the types of documents you need to rely on in this regard are course statistics, how many students enrolled, how many failed, how many got better marks, how many got low marks, and so on and so forth, statistics. Relevant course documents, like description, course description, syllabi, okay? Course documents, okay? Course work, tests conducted, class assignments, homeworks, okay? Materials used, bibliography for you, like in my program. coursework. So written commands, anything that has been written about the course by external assessors, teachers, learners, and managers. Somebody from outside visited and then talking about the program. Institutional documents. So they're referring to the administration here, school, hiring policy, job descriptions, needs analysis, and so on. Course reviews, okay, should be both descriptive and reflective. Like, for example, teacher, he teaches that one unit or one course in that program, and then the teacher writes a report about how he felt about the course, going on of the course, development of the course, problems he faced. Like, it should be like descriptive, reflective. Okay, recommendations. Okay. Implementation criteria for good evaluation. Now, good evaluation, you need to take into account the scope, the range of information collected. Does it include all aspects of the program? You remember the focus at the beginning of the lecture today? There are different points of focus you can focus on. So, are they all included in the evaluation, or you focus just on one thing? Okay, the more... Yeah, in order to fit the program, you have to evaluate all of that. So that's the scope. You should evaluate all aspects, the range of information collected, etc. Audience. And then reliability. Has the information been collected in such a way that the same findings would be obtained? Now, reliability, because that's the purpose of quantitative research or quantitative evaluation. Numbers. Okay, so that's validity, reliability. Representativeness. That you say, this is also applicable to research in general. Your number of informants should be representative. You don't talk to me about 25 informants and then at the end you tend to generalize to all Morocco. Okay? Usually there is a caliber in there that you should take, like 20 and more. Not 20, 200 and more. Okay? 200 and more, like for the informants. So the same thing here. Sample, yeah, sample. I'm talking about the informant, sample. Okay? Like teachers or... So it should be like more, okay? It should be large. The sample should be as large as possible for going into generalization, okay? Representativeness.
If the population is 10,000 and the sample, I think, is 380 something.
Yeah.
The larger the sample, the smaller, the larger the population, the smaller the sample is.
Yes, and
but
the more...
The smaller the population, the larger the sample.
And of course, but it's all more work for the researcher. So this is why research tends to be overwhelming sometimes. Because of this. Because of the documentation, of course, but because of, having large samples. Timelines, ethical considerations, ethical considerations, have the teachers been committed to, etc. So such as the confidentiality of information and other elements in there. Now the following process I'm only involved after evaluation, what should be done, like review, disseminate, decide, identify the cause, develop a plan for implementation of changes. Now after you do the evaluation, this is what should be done. Okay, review, what you have should be reviewed, then disseminate the findings, relevant figures, then decide on what changes need to be done, identify the costs and benefits of proposed changes. If you want to do changes, what is the cost of that? Develop a plan for implementation of changes. You need to develop a plan. Everything should be organized, okay? And here you have, I'll let you read this on your own, okay? So the examples of, or the kinds of changes that might be needed are revision, preparation, etc. Procedures concerning the instruments. Now, the different types of instruments used and procedures used. So you have tests. Different types of tests are used, okay? TOEFL, IELTS, etc. by Cambridge. Institutionally prepared tests. You can have tests inside the school itself. Textbook tests. Student records. Comparison of two approaches to a course, okay? Comparison. That's one procedure. Let's call it just comparison. You compare this course with another similar course and how it has been conducted. Okay? That's one way of doing evaluation, comparison of two courses. Interviews, questionnaires, teachers' written evaluation, okay, because we talked about reflective, descriptive evaluation of teachers. They write something like their reflection. Diaries and journals, teachers' records. It's part of, in fact, all these are teachers' records. I mean, yeah. Student logs, okay. That's why it's used in technology, login, okay. Case studies, self-evaluations, audio, video recording. You have all this in chapters, okay? So that's why I move quickly here, okay? But you have it all in the chapter. Observation, okay? And then at the end, the author proposes a kind of schema of relevant procedures for each focus, for each point of focus, okay? Or for each type of audience or participants. This is a kind of schema. Summarize the focus and procedures available in program evaluations. For example, if your focus is on teachers' beliefs, the procedures you should use are pre-post questionnaires, interviews, observations, review of lesson plans. So you see, there are procedures for each type of focus. If you focus on teachers' abilities, observations, videotapes, self-assessment quizzes, pre-post questionnaires, interviews, etc. So I'm not going into the details of this, but we finish with just raising this point that you take this, okay? It summarizes most of the chapter. Student behaviors, if your focus is on student behaviors, student interviews, student questionnaires, and teacher logs, etc. So all of this. And then, of course, you have some questions from further discussion in there.